Over a year ago, I made a video called The Lonely Walker Theory, and a good amount of people saw it. But just like my other older videos, I had to delete it because of copyright issues. However, after a whole year has passed, this theory is only more likely to be true. With what happened to Rick, with what will happen to Michonne, I think it's time we dive back in to The Lonely Walker Theory. So, here we are again. This is my opportunity to perfect this theory. Never has the comment section on any of my videos been this mixed. The mistake I made in my first video of this was not to state the obvious. Yes, this walker represents Shane and his loneliness and how he was feeling at the time. Yes, this walker is physically Greg Nicotero. This is him in the field. When they filmed this, it is him. In fact, this walker, what it looks like, who it is, its story behind it doesn't matter. Now I've got that out of the way, let's finally get into the Lonely Walker theory. In Season 2, Episode 10, Shane looks out of a car window and sees a lone walker. It's just alone, and you're meant to think it represents Shane, it connects with him. Because of course, Shane feels lonely, he feels he's slipping away from the group and he's an outcast. And in fact sees himself a lot in that walker. It is a direct representation of Shane, it symbolizes Shane. Or does it? If I was to ask you right now, when you think you first started seeing the Lonely Walker in the intros to The Walking Dead, when would you say? You'd probably say since season 3, 4, wouldn't you? The Lonely Walker first ever appeared in an intro sequence in The Walking Dead in season 5. Why season 5? Its first appearance was season 2, so why now? This is 3 years after season 2, Shane is dead. This Lonely Walker no longer represents Shane, because Shane is dead. In fact, Shane died in season 2 and they didn't even add it in season 3 or 4. They waited 2 seasons and put it in the premiere to season 5. Why? Well, that's because the Lonely Walker never represented Shane, it represents who he was in the car with. Rick. Although season 4 is where Rick went mad, season 5 is where Rick lost his humanity. In season 5 he really didn't care as much about killing. Everything about him, everything that made him human, went. In 2014, Robert Kirkman came out and officially said for the first time that he knows the ending to The Walking Dead. In the October of 2014, this is where we first saw the reappearance of the Lonely Walker. This was in the premiere for season 5, we saw a brand new intro sequence, just months after Robert Kirkman said he knows how the whole show will end. I believe the Lonely Walker was added into season 5 because that was the season Rick would lose his humanity. And I believe the Lonely Walker represents Rick and is completely foreshadowing how The Walking Dead will end. I believe The Walking Dead will end with a Lonely Walker and be almost identical to this scene. The Lonely Walker was in the intro sequence of every single episode since the start of season 5 up until the very first episode of season 9 where the intros would be completely redone. Why would they take it out of the intro for season 9? Because Rick is no longer in the show, so the Lonely Walker no longer has any meaning. They put it in the very first episode of season 5 and then removed it on the very season Rick would no longer be in the show. So I believe this Lonely Walker represents Rick. I believe this is how the show will end. In the very last episode, we will be following around a zombified Rick, seeing the perspective of a walker. Much like all the mini-series in the Walking Dead universe, we're gonna see the grand end message, the end moral of the show. The end of the show is that we are the Walking Dead. Now that Rick has left the show, will he ever return? Well, Andrew Lincoln did say he is having a break from the show. However, he also said this is his final season. However, this is how I'm going to perfect this theory. This is how we've got more information than last year. The Lonely Walker is no longer in the intro, so there's a chance it's followed Rick. Of course, we know Rick is getting 3 big movies, and the Lonely Walker theory is going to be really good at helping us discuss how the trilogy will end, what it will be called, and what will happen in it. So the first movie is said to be about Rick, healing from his injuries he got in season 9. And I 100% believe Michonne will join him in these movies somehow. There's a reason Rick hasn't come back to the main communities after all these years. I don't believe he's been asleep all this time, and I don't agree with the theory that he's lost his memory. I believe the first movie will be about him healing from his injuries. I believe the second movie will be about shutting down the organization that saved him. Why would he want to shut it down? Well, because I don't think these people are the Commonwealth, and I don't think these people want to help. I think the reason that Rick hasn't returned to the main communities is because he literally can't. Jadis was trying to get these people's attention for a very long time. Like, even before season 9, they didn't allow her to go onto the helicopter unless she had an A or a B. Think about that time Jadis had Negan tied up. She was calling the helicopter over and would only be able to board the helicopter if she had someone with her. Years later, she tries to get Gabriel to be the one to go with her. All of these attempts failed. She was planning to cheat the system and actually get into the helicopter by gunpoint. That was until she saw someone. A heavily injured, nearly dead Rick laying on the side of a river. This changes her mind and she says,
I have a B. Not an A, I never had an A. He's hurt, but he's strong. Can you help him?
I warned you there'd be consequences if you tried something.
So she's allowed onto the helicopter if she brings someone with her. In this case, it's an injured person, a B, and it is Rick. So in the first movie, it will be about Rick recovering from his injuries. So there are 2 more movies, and Rick has not returned to his main communities, not to see his family. So after all these years, what's taken Rick so long? Why hasn't he appeared somehow yet? Well, I believe the reason Jadis was required to have someone with her is because she'd be doing the organization a favor by bringing someone else they can experiment on. Do you remember Heath? Heath was a character that magically disappeared. He's heavily hinted to be at the same place Rick is being taken to. So if he's there, why hasn't he come back? Well, I believe the people who join this organization have to bring someone with them that will be experimented on for the cure. I think the second and third movie will be all about Rick shutting down this organization and saving the people that he's met. And I think Michonne will leave only to appear in the third movie, and we'll see the Lonely Walker. The Lonely Walker being Rick. Michonne has always been destined to find Rick again, and her leaving the show kind of confirms she will. However, something we have confirmation of also is that Rick will never return to the main show. Andrew Lincoln said this would be his final season. I'm sure we're going to hear more at Comic-Con this year in July, but Michonne hasn't been confirmed to permanently leave. However, Andrew Lincoln has said himself that season 9 was his absolute last. So the only way I logically see Michonne returning to Alexandria without Rick is if she finds Rick dead. Michonne would actually have a reason to return to Alexandria to tell Judith what happened. Along with Rick's corpse, we would have all these new people from this organization that Rick saved. And so Rick's death wouldn't be in vain. Michonne would be returning to these communities with hundreds, maybe thousands of new people. So in the intro to this new movie trilogy, when we see the intro sequence, look out for the Lonely Walker. I would even go as far as to say, I believe this movie trilogy will be called The Lonely Walker. Now, the first 5 minutes of this video have been about the original The Lonely Walker theory, but as so much has happened between now and last year when I originally uploaded that video, I really had to add just so much more to it because there's so much more depth to it now. Now that Rick has actually left the show, it's really likely he will never return to the main show, so I thought it would be a really good idea to retell this theory a year later when so much in the show, in this universe, has happened. On the top right of your screen, you're going to see an eye icon pop up about now. Tap or click on that and you'll be able to vote in the poll. Do you agree with the Lonely Walker theory? Do you agree with the first or second half of the theory? Or do you agree with the whole thing? Of course, the first one, the original part of this video, is only really relevant if Rick comes back to the main show. Of course, the second half of the theory suggests that he will never return and he will have the same fate in the movies. The first half suggests that he will return to the main show, and like the original theory suggests, the very final scene of The Walking Dead will be the Lonely Walker. It will be Rick as the Lonely Walker. But make sure to comment below as well, that's really important. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's a good theory? Do you think it's really bad? And if you want want to hear more about where Rick could possibly be and where it's most likely, then make sure you click on the link in the description of the Heath video. This is a video discussing all about the whereabouts of Heath and where he most likely is, what's going to happen to him, or of course if he's already dead. As well as the Heath video, I've also got a video called the Civil War Theory, where we discuss certain characters turning against Daryl and of course Daryl winning, so make sure to check them out. Thanks for watching this video, it really means a lot. I've been waiting for the right time to remake this video, and it really means a lot that you've taken time out of your life to watch it. Make sure to subscribe so that you are the first to hear about The Walking Dead. Thanks for watching, see you soon.